Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's team call. My name is Leah Pearson, and I am an Emerald Ambassador. And tonight we are going to be talking about finding and engaging with business builder potentials or potentials to work the business with you, and just some strategies that have been working really well for me recently. So we are going to first touch on branding well and why that's important for connecting with business potentials. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how I expand my network, what that looks like, and hopefully that'll give you some helpful tips as well. And then practically speaking, how to reach out to people about the business. And then we're going to end with why it's important to continue to follow up and build belief with them after that initial reach out. So first, I'm going to talk about branding and expanding your network. So in order to bring in more business builders and get yourself in front of more people, you need to work on branding and expanding your network. That is the foundation. In order to have business builders on your team, you need to be a leader, right? In order to lead people, you need to be influencing people. You need to have influence. And one of the main ways that we do that in this business is by branding our social media well. Branding is important for bringing in new business builders and product users too. I know you know that, but especially with bringing in new business builders, because in order for someone to make a life-altering decision, like going all in with the Plexus business, they need to feel like they know you and that they can trust you. The business side of Plexus involves a lot of heart. When talking to a business potential, you will be asking them personal questions in regards to their financial goals and even their wildest dreams, like discussing their why, right? So if you really want to be able to engage with them in these conversations, they need to already have a level of trust with you and feel like they can open up to you. You have to have influence in their life. And so this is why branding is so important and is a key way to build influence in your network. We are not influencers. We're not trying to gain thousands of followers here. We are network marketers. There is a difference, but we are trying to be, or we want to be, influential in our audience, in our sphere of influence. I know that this is super basic, but this business and what we do is really simple. So if you step back and you look at it, in order for you to have someone take a look at the business opportunity that you're presenting to them, in order for them to have interest in, like what you're saying, this is going to be really wise for you to do this business, for them to trust that what you're saying, this business is a good idea, you have to have influence in their life for them to believe you, right? They have to be bought into you, your suggestions, and your leadership. And so that's where branding comes in. When you're on your social media page, you need to remember that this is your business storefront. And oftentimes you only get a very small blip of time to make an impression on people. So that means when someone comes across anything that you post in their newsfeed, you want to make an impression. When someone comes to your page, you want to make an impression. Every single post and what you have on your page matters. Most people come into social media to consume. So just by you doing some basic, consistent posting, you are already showing up as a leader. Post well, and over time, you will start to gain influence in people's lives. It's important to find specific topics for branding your page so that you have direction with your posting. Has anybody ever thought, what do I post? I don't know what to post. I'm stuck with what to post. Help, I don't know what to post. It's really helpful to find 5 topics where you can add value for your social media posting, because adding value is what builds influence in people's life. So like I said, most people show up on social media with a taker mentality. For you and your business, social media is all about what you can give and not what you're consuming. We have to show up to give and to add. There are so many trainings and voices that talk about how to gain a following or how to brand yourself. But we don't want to just gain a following. What we want to do is we also want to attract leaders. So what we do is a bit different. Picking a really simple way to break it down is picking 5 overarching topics. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. So 5 topics that you are going to be posting about and branding about on your page. Some questions that you can ask yourself, and write these down because it might take some reflection on your part. But some questions you can ask yourself to kind of find those 5 topics. What problems can you solve? What do people come to you to ask advice about? And maybe not just on Facebook, just like in real life, like your friends or people in your life. What do they ask your advice on? What things do you post, or what kind of things can you post so that people will trust you? What makes you unique from other people or sets you apart? Something that's just a little bit different about you. You could maybe grind your own wheat or have chickens, or just one thing that is just maybe a little bit different from other people. What is something that you can easily talk about? What could you talk about all day and you know how to turn it into adding value? What are some things that you are learning right now? So use those to find those 5 topics, and then have those topics in front of you when you're doing your post planning. And it also might be helpful after this call to talk to your sponsor about how you already add value, and they can give you some direction to help narrow down to those 5 topics as well. So I know for me, like I homeschool, my sponsor does not homeschool, but she started telling me, even before I was posting a lot about homeschool, she was telling me often that she found it super interesting to follow along with my homeschooling journey, because she just liked seeing like what I did with my kids and stuff like that. So that's something that I post about a lot now. If any of you follow me, you know that. And it was encouraging to me too, that even a non-homeschooling mom is finding value in that, right? And following along with my journey. I will say sometimes you need to take action to find out where you should add value or what topics you should be posting about. Sometimes you just need to start posting and see what gains traction. And I actually was going to talk to Sue Yant about this before the call, and I didn't get around to it. But one thing that I observed about Sue, I'm going to talk about you a second here, but on her Instagram, I don't even know, it was a few months ago, or maybe it was last year, time's flying. I remember her posting and starting to like post about fashion stuff. And it was kind of like she was trying out this lane. And Sue, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong with my observations here. But I then saw her shift into where she is posting about homesteading stuff. And I noticed this because I feel like her posts have gotten just a ton of traction, and she's doing a really, really good job with branding right now. And so if you are posting something, it's not quite working, it is okay to shift gears, and you are going to find what's natural to you, what's natural to talk about. Like for Sue, they've got their, greenhouse up and they're doing that stuff in the day to day. For me, I am in the trenches homeschooling my kids. So that's super easy for me to post about. So you are going to kind of find your lane. And it's okay to take action to kind of figure out what that lane is. But I think it's pretty cool to see how well her engagement is doing now. So it's wise to take action to see what is gaining traction, and then shift if needed. Try to go deeper than posting pictures about just your kids or your dog or things like that. I think that's okay to do once in a while, but really we want to try to connect with people's heart. You might feel as though you're just another voice that's lost on social media. I know I kind of felt like that for a while. I don't know if you relate to that. Just because, I think with our Plexus business, we're surrounded by Plexus people, and all the people on our team are showing up on social media and adding value every day. So it might just kind of feel like you're lost in a sea of faces. But the reality is, if you are showing up and you're posting, you're already set apart from the majority of people on social media. Like I said previously, a lot of people are here to consume. But if you are adding value, if you are posting, you are already set apart. So hopefully that's eye-opening for you, and you know that you are set apart and your voice does matter, and you have a lane and you have a group of people that you are called to influence, and your voice matters. It's also important to talk about, it's good to be vulnerable, and leaders are initiators in all areas, including this. So I'm not saying be vulnerable in the sense of airing out all your junk, but in a sense of allowing people into your life and your heart. You need to initiate opening up your heart and your dreams to people if you expect them to engage in conversations with you about their dreams and their story when you're talking to them about the business. So you have to share your story in your heart first, because leaders are initiators. So if you do this on your social media page, that is going to break open conversations. Also, when somebody already knows your tone and who you are, like if you've branded well and they know your heart behind your posts, they are going to receive your reach out messages in a completely different way. So show up in an authentic, open, even vulnerable way that lays a foundation of trust for your messages to be more readily received. If you aren't adding value, you're subtracting value. So even if you're sharing vulnerable things, which sometimes can be like those hard things that you've walked through, make sure that you are adding value at the end and sharing like the lesson that you've learned through that, things like that. It's also important when you are talking about branding to show your face to people so they feel like they know you. This can be done in a variety of ways and should be done in a variety of ways. On your page, some people just watch stories. Some people only scroll newsfeed. So it's important to be personal and show your face in a variety of ways in both of those places. I'm sure that a lot of you know that talking in stories is a great way to start building trust with your audience. You probably see a lot of people do that. A lot of jewels do that. It helps them get to know you on a more personal level. You're sharing blips of your day. They feel like they know you more because it's almost like you guys are talking face to face when you do that. I think that it's really important to sprinkle live videos onto your wall as well. That's something that I try to do and I found effective, because that way my non-story watchers can also get a glimpse of who I am and hear my voice and my heart too. So make sure that you are showing up in both places in that way. And then also just make sure that you are showing your face. If you feel like you're not having a lot of people accept your friend requests, if you feel like you're not getting a lot of response in regards to like when you are reaching out to people, you probably need to connect with your audience more. And one way that you can do that is showing your face via pictures. So even if you don't love doing that, when you're posting things, add a picture of you, not graphics about Plexus, not just pictures of your kids. Don't hide behind the camera, not just memes and quotes. People are really buying into you, not necessarily into Plexus. They're literally buying into you. But if they don't know you, if they don't know your face, if they don't know your voice, they're not going to feel connected to you. So I know doing a live video might be kind of scary, or posting pictures of yourself might be uncomfortable. But one question that I always like to ask myself when I hesitate with something like that is, how much money is it going to cost me to keep that excuse? And also, I know that there are people on the other side of that uncomfortable thing, and their future is directly related to my obedience and my willingness to be uncomfortable. It's not about me. So hopefully that's helpful for you too. It's not about you. Things to not do really quick in regards to branding: do not share other people's posts or videos, because people are on your page to hear your voice. Instead of sharing someone else's video or post, what you can do, or what I like to do, is I save it in, I have a folder called Inspiration for Posting. And I think and reflect on what resonated with me in that post. Why did I like that? And then based on that, I save those things. Based on that, I will put my own voice to it, pull from that, and make my own content. So that could even be just simply typing out, like if I found a picture of a quote or something, typing it out and putting it with a picture of me and adding my voice to it and adding some of my own thoughts, something like that. I also prefer, one thing that has come up a little bit when I've been talking to some of my team, I prefer to not put Plexus like in my bio or my about section on my page, or like even as my place of work, just because I think that prematurely weeds people out when you're adding friends. It's not that we're trying to hide that we're Plexus ambassadors. Obviously, I'm all for, like, I post about it every single day, right? But if that's the first thing that someone sees when they're coming to your page, that might prevent them from accepting your friend request. So just something to think about. And then I also am I think it's very important to not share about other opportunities or businesses or other people's posts, or even hosting events for other companies. If it's not like a clear direction that you are heading in, people will not follow you. So you need to have a singular focus and direction. You got to pick a horse and ride it. And people need to be able to trust that you are going to lead them well in this company. I do post other like health recommendations occasionally just to add value, things like that, but I'm not ever promoting other businesses. There's definitely a big difference. So everything that I shared about branding so far, that has not included like specific posting like in regards to Plexus. So it's obviously important, if you are trying to attract business builders, that you are posting about the business opportunity often. If you want new business builders on your team, you cannot just post about the products. 90% of the time, I am posting about the business opportunity. And I still get product users that join me. That does not prevent me from getting product users. So when posting in regards to the business, just a couple quick tips: share your story, share your big vision, share why this is important to you, initiate opening up your heart, kind of like I said, be vulnerable and be that initiator with that. And then watch people follow your lead and open up when you're personal messaging them too. It's really quite awesome. If you want to really focus on building influence, John Maxwell has 2 excellent podcasts on the Maxwell Leadership Podcast called How to Gain Influence Part 1 and Part 2. So it's a 2-part thing. That would be great for you to watch too, or listen to as well. Okay, so number 2, let's talk about expanding your network. I know that was kind of long. That was a big chunk, but expanding your network and just finding people to chat with about this opportunity. So this next part, I'm going to be referencing what I do on Facebook to network, because that's primarily where I've been growing my business. I'm sure some of this will apply to Instagram too, but just for the sake of time, I'm talking about what I do on Facebook. So once you know some of your categories or topics that you will be posting about, we had to cover that first because then everything else follows. Then you can go and find groups related to these things. Because when you friend request people from these groups, that's why we join groups, is because we were trying to keep our funnel full. They will have a reason to follow you and to accept your friend request because you already have some things in common. And I found that the number of friend requests that I have that are accepted is better if they can go to my page and see that we have things in common right away. And also if I brand well in general and show my face, like what I just touched on. So everything that I post, for me, my topics are homeschooling, being an engaged mom, or like parenting, valuing outside time and valuing the family unit, and then spiritual encouragement. Just about everything I post falls under those 5 things. Those are kind of like the umbrella. And even my Plexus posts, a lot of times I try to make those relate to those things. So those are just my examples. But then based on that, I try to look for groups that correlate with those things. So there's several subcategories to those 5 things that I listed. We've got chickens. We kind of homestead. We homestead-ish is what I say. We have a specific curriculum that we use for homeschool. So again, these are all my examples, but I'm going to go and look for Facebook groups that relate to those things. So when looking for a business builder, it needs to be someone that you have something in common with. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are branding authentic to yourself. And then also when you're joining groups, like you're going to find people that have similarities to you. When joining groups, something that I found, sometimes you will have groups that just kind of dry up. The whole point of you going into those groups is so that you are getting new conversations going, being able to add new friends, things like that. And so sometimes those groups are just not super active. I was in a homeschool group and I found that a lot of the moms in there were negative and cranky. And they were not responding to my messages ever. So I just went and looked for some other groups, and it was like amazing how many more friend requests I was getting accepted and how many more conversations I was having. So don't be afraid to look for different groups. The whole purpose of joining groups is so that you can have additional conversations with new people. So find some groups and then you join them. Previously in my business, what I was spending a lot of time doing was I was engaging in those groups, asking questions, adding value, and then friend requesting. Within the last 6 months, I feel like I've really cut down on the amount of time that I've spent doing that. And I've gotten a better return in my conversations business-wise. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. What I'm currently doing is I am periodically posting to add value, not every single day in those groups, but oftentimes what I like to do, and if you are branding intentionally and branding well, is you can actually recycle material to save time. So I actually did this today. If you are on my Facebook, you know that I posted about like a new scheduling thing that I am doing with my kids. I took that same material and I posted it in a couple homeschool groups today, and I had over 100 people engage in one of the posts in the homeschool group. It was insane. So any posts that I put up on my page about homeschooling or time management or whatever, I try to put those in the groups too and recycle information to save time. I also will go in. So what am I doing in those groups? Posting to add value. The other thing I'll do is I will respond to questions that people are asking in there and adding value. So a lot of times, if you're in those groups, you will see similar questions asked over and over, such as like a homeschooling for beginners group I'm in. I feel like they're asking a lot of similar questions. And so I actually have a typed out response that I've saved, and I just automatically pop it in there, tweak it if needed. And that saves me a lot of time. But even adding value by responding to questions is a really good way to kind of show up as a leader in there. So you don't want to be just scrolling through these groups, wasting time. It just needs to be a couple minutes every single day, adding value, and then responding to people and solving problems. So when I'm in those groups, specifically for looking for business builders, what I'm looking for is people that are asking questions in regards to things I already am adding value to on my page. I know that we already have similar interests and values if they're engaging in those topics, so I add them as a friend. And I also know that, I know you guys know this too, when somebody sends you a friend request, what do? You go to their Facebook page and check them out, right? So if I am sending a friend request to these people and then they go check out my page and they see we've got these things in common, I have found that my friend request acceptance rate is so much higher. I also look for people who have a need that Plexus will meet, that I can solve a problem for them essentially. So for instance, in my sphere, a lot of that is like the husband being gone a lot, is a pain point. The cost of homeschooling is an issue for a lot of people, things like that. So I will add those people because I know that when I am posting, I'm going to be solving their problems and they're going to see what I have as a solution to that. I also look for people who are displaying leadership already, people posting about their schedules or disciplines or, different things like that. Somebody who's already adding value in those groups, or even like showing a hunger to grow. So looking for those attributes of a leader, I will add them right away as well. And this probably sounds like a lot, but when you find your lane and you start practicing this, it's really quick and becomes automatic. So all to say, what I'm doing is I'm friend requesting these people. Then this goes back to branding. So if you've branded well, people are more likely going to accept your friend request and value what you have to say, because of course they're going to check out your page, like I said. Another thing in regards to branding, think about your audience and the needs of the people in your audience. A lot of those things will come up in those groups. So looking for things in those themes and try to post according to how Plexus can solve those pain points or problems. So for instance, and that goes for products and for business too, but I'm kind of talking business tonight. So for instance, I saw a theme in several groups I was in about homeschooling and kind of like the financial burden of people having to make that choice of quitting their job so they could homeschool their kids. There's a lot of people interested in homeschooling right now, or even just the cost of homeschooling because you have to buy all the curriculum and everything. So I post specifically about how Plexus can solve those problems. And I've had a ton of people that have come to me about the business. I don't even have to reach out to them. They've been coming to me because I am specifically targeting those pain points. So if you're branding well and then engaging with the right people, things are just going to move quicker and you're going to have more conversations about the business. And that's what I love. In regards to reaching out, I think some people struggle with reaching out because you feel salesy or whatever the case may be. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that were really empowering for me. If you struggle with reaching out about the business, talk to your sponsor about that and they can kind of go into mindset stuff with you. But one thing that was empowering for me when reaching out about the business, I have the mindset that I have something to offer people. I'm not asking them to buy anything, which is not bad to ask people to purchase our products. Our products are life-changing. But in regards to reaching out about the business, I think of it as you're asking them if they want to add to their life, add income, add something that's going to empower them, add something that's going to change their life. And I love that. So this is something for them. So I love reaching out about the business just for that reason alone. And I touched on branding and how to add to your funnel for those potential business builders, like how to add friends, because this is the foundation. I know I spent a lot of time on that, but if you brand well and have good influence, you have laid a solid foundation for your reach out. So if you are sending out messages to people about the business and they're not gaining traction, you need to go back to branding and influence. If you have branded well, you literally have paved the way to reach out to this person and invite them into this opportunity. So how do you reach out to somebody? Do you guys let me know in the comments? Do you add them as a friend and then wait a super long time to reach out to them? Do you reach out to them right away? What does that look like? Are you nervous about reaching out to them? Do you not know how to bring it up? Does it feel complicated? Let me know. I'm going to tell you how I do it. So if you brand well, you can move a lot quicker, is what I think. And that's why I spent so much time talking about this. Social selling is super normal. It's different than it was even just a few years ago. So I believe, and what I do is I reach out to people right away. Send the message and don't wait. If you are adding enough value on your page, if you're branding well and laying that foundation, you can pull the trigger and reach out about Plexus. I believe that if you brand well, you're never actually sending a cold message. A cold message is when you are reaching out about Plexus to someone that you don't have previous connection with. But excellent branding literally builds a bridge to that person even before you personally interact with that person. When I first started my business, I spent a lot of time where I'd add friends and then I'd go comment on their pages and then I'd send them, like a relationship building message. Does anybody do this? And I'd chit chat with them. And then after a few weeks or months went by, I would message them about Plexus. And that is not necessarily wrong. Like if that's what you're currently doing, I think that's a good way to build solid relationships. But I have found time is precious, and I can get from point A to point B quicker if I brand well, and I don't mind that. So I also feel personally more authentic if I just bring Plexus up right away. I feel more authentic about just putting it out there right away rather than waiting. And otherwise, I kind of almost feel like I have an underlying motive, like when I'm chit-chatting with them, like when I'm relationship building with them. So I don't wait. I add people and then I send out a reach out message most of the time about the business, right away. That's what I've been doing the last few months. So messaging right away. And obviously I have intentionally been working on my branding. And I've had more business conversations probably in the last 3 or 4 months doing that than I've had ever in my business. So what do I say when I reach out to people? I think a lot of times people want like that magic message as far as like, what do I say to get people to be interested in this? But it's not about the magic message. It's about that bridge that you've built between you and that person via branding that makes it effective. So currently, I don't have a magic message. I'll share with you what I'm doing, but I actually took a message from in group coaching. Sally Boss shared a message with us about like how she would reach out to people about the products. And I just flipped it and turned it into a business reach out, kind of like I guess you would technically call it like a cold reach out. But again, I don't ever think that messages are cold if you've built that bridge. So similar format. And a lot of times I will voice clip it, but essentially what it says is something along the lines of, greeting them. I know that we haven't had much of a chance to connect on here, so I'll keep this brief. I'm sure you're busy like I am, but I've been working from home for about 3 months and I love for about 3 years now, and I love introducing other women to this incredible financial opportunity. I have no clue if this is something you'd be interested in, but I'd love to send you some info. Could I share more with you? That's it. Simple. And like I said, because of the branding and building that bridge, that's what makes a reach out message effective. And I do encourage you to lead with reaching out about the business. If you do not do that currently and you need your belief built as to why, your sponsor can give you a great video about why after this call, if you want to hear more about that. So after I send that message, if they're not interested, I keep engaging with them and building that relationship. I like to put Plexus on the table right away. And I don't feel like that changes anything. I can still connect with them. I can still relationship build with them, continue that conversation after that initial message. The only difference is I put Plexus out there right away. And then moving along, just for the sake of time, follow up. I think it's important to realize that you need to continue to follow up about the business. A couple of weeks ago, I made a post that connected to a pain point for some new homeschool parents. And I had 12 people reach out to me about the business with that one post. And that's not something that I would say is normal for me. That was exciting because I feel like that is fruit of my branding improving. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. But out of those 12 people, I did not close any of those people for the business right away. I'm still chatting with them. I'm still following up with them. I'm still building their belief and inviting them to events. I think when talking to potential business builders, it's important to remember that you're going to have to continue to follow up and build belief, maybe even more so than when talking to somebody about the products. Just put it in your head that you need to follow up with them a solid 10 to 15 times or more, probably. Considering starting an at-home business is literally like a 180 for a lot of people. It was not on the radar. I know it was not on my radar. So you have to continue to build their belief and paint a picture as to how this could fit into their life, how this would change their life, and why they can do this. And your sponsor can help you with more specifics as to how to follow up. But that's basically what it is continuing to connect with them and build their belief. I've had some people that have come into the business very quickly after I send them that initial message. Last month, I had somebody sign up for the business that I had been following up with for 3 years. She was one of the first people that I reached out to when I started my business. So it definitely varies. Don't give up on people. And like I said, I ask your sponsor if you want more specifics on how to follow up about the business, or you can always default to the products as well. And then back to branding. Again, I feel like I'm talking a lot about branding. You have to keep showing up on social media consistently for people to be able to trust you. So even if you reached out to someone and they aren't ready yet, or they haven't said yes yet about starting the business, they're watching you. And if you keep working on your branding and showing up as the real you and building influence, you're going to continue to build influence in their life too. And that's definitely what happened with me. I did not directly know my sponsor, Jamie, but I knew who she was and that she was consistently representing Plexus. She was consistently riding this horse and showing up and adding value, which made her trustworthy. So by you continuing to show up, that's another way to gain influence in their life and continue to build that trust. Consistency matters. So build a solid brand. Keep adding to your network. Hopefully that was some helpful tips as to how to add to your network. Look for pain points within your network. You're going to see people chit-chatting about that in those groups. Reach out boldly without waiting, because you've already built that bridge to help that person, to connect with that person, and then continue to breathe belief into people. And that is how you get new business builders on your team. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you guys for joining us, and I will see you soon. See you at convention.